Welcome back to the Retro Space Library and Arcade, run by its queen, Jessica. I mean, who else is out here in space with me? I might as well be the Space Queen. But we're over here in a different part than you're used to seeing. Well, at least you can see some of it. Those books, they go clear to this wall over here, out of frame. And you can see some of my figures who are standing watch. Mainly you can see the Star Trek ones, the others are a bit dark in the shot. But they may appear in other videos. Who can say? But this little challenge I set for myself before I buy any books back on Earth, because right now we're in between the orbits of Jupiter and Saturn, and also in between full episodes. Yeah, before I buy any other books or check any out from any libraries, my challenge to myself was to read all of my books, at least all of the fiction and nonfiction. I do have like encyclopedias and reference books and other stuff. I'm not necessarily going to count those. So mainly what's on this shelf, and it's organized in a pretty typical way, like alphabetical by author's last name. So I'm just going to read this shelf from A to Z as it's organized. Now this is going to be rereading stuff that I have already read, and in some cases, as we go down, reading for the first time. I got to start myself off easy with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. A fun, light, irreverent, breezy read. For those who don't know what it's about, I mean, I'd say pretty famous. Odds are you have heard of it, and it's probably one of those things that you've already made up your mind, especially like based on how much you like British humor. Especially British humor that goes well out of its way to make fun of bureaucrats, as any humor should. But I figure for, those of you who haven't heard of this since it came out in 1979, how retro is that? Like, plus, it's dead tree flesh with words and symbols imprinted with ink. Very retro. But I'll read the elevator pitch on the back. It's an ordinary Thursday lunchtime for Arthur Dent until his house gets demolished. The Earth follows shortly afterwards to make way for a new hyperspace bypass. And his best friend has just announced that he's an alien. At this moment, they're hurtling through space with nothing but their towels and an innocuous looking book inscribed with the big friendly words, "Don't panic. The weekend has only just begun." So when I reread this most recently, I read most of it at a cafe back on Earth. I was giggling and laughing so much. I was like, I don't care that about in public. I'm having a great time. I want to read one particular passage. Yeah, it doesn't really spoil anything beyond what I've already said from the back of the book. But I think it's just a wonderful example of the kind of cheeky prose. just it just gets me. Uh, Here we go. A hole had just appeared in the galaxy. It was exactly a nothingth of a second long, a nothingth of an inch wide, and quite a lot of millions of light years from end to end. As it closed up, lots of paper, hats, and party balloons fell off it and drifted off through the universe. A team of 7 3-foot high market analysts fell out of it and died, partly of asphyxiation, partly of surprise. Just one beautiful example out of many of the the effortless and witty prose of Douglas Adams, and there's really nothing for me to criticize about the book, like from a writing or editing perspective. Like everything is just smooth and slick, and I can't really think of a scene that feels wasted or tacked on. Like it's, I mean, this particular edition is not even 200 pages long. It's a light and breezy read. Even if you're not someone who is normally all that into books, you can still get through this pretty quickly. And it's just, again, it's just irreverent and cheeky and witty. I love it. And it does have a really good film adaptation. There's a BBC TV series adaptation. And it's one of those instances where the mainstream movie, I feel like, is just about on equal footing as the book. It helps that Adams did have a hand in the screenplay before he passed, and then the actors chosen are wonderful, and there are liberties taken with the movie, but it's one of those instances where like the book is so freaking far out there and wacky that taking things from the written word only, they don't necessarily translate particularly well or easily to a motion picture film format of 90 to 120 minutes runtime. But yeah, I can't recommend it enough. I guess if you got a giant pole up your ass and or just can't get on board with British humor, maybe you want to give it a pass. But otherwise, I'm like, I I'd recommend this to anybody. And you can also get compilations that have the complete trilogy of 5 books. But if you are not wanting to commit that far, if you're not sure, you can pick up the original story pretty easily. So that's gonna do it for my first official book review for the channel. I hope you enjoyed that. Next on this little mini series, gonna hit Isaac Asimov's Foundation. So that comes from a very different headspace from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So yeah, breathe for a second and put my serious thinking cap on for that one. So I'll do. Otherwise, all those back on Earth. Be well. Much love. So I'll see you later.